There are many people out there who talk crap about their city. Aw man, I have so much crime in my city. My city's so dirty and the people are this and that. And today's stories are all about just that. Now don't get me wrong here. I live in a gorgeous part of America. Not to be biased here, but Oregon's the most beautiful place on this entire planet. Actually, now that I said that out loud, it does sound a bit biased, doesn't it? However, the city that I live in is the most dangerous city in all of Oregon per capita. Lots of meth out here, lots of meth addicts and domestic BS, and today I wanted to share a few of the fun times that I've had while being out and about in this town. So, I'm a pretty active person. I like to go out on walks, I like to go on bike rides through town. I have a group of friends who all bought rollerblades, and sometimes I'll just throw those on and blade around. Well, this one night I was rollerblading around the streets of Medford with two of my friends, Jake and Asia. Jake and I were keeping pace with each other and chatting a bit while Asia was skating ahead, zipping through the streets. Now, she was never out of sight, she was just always quite a bit ahead. Everything was normal when I started hearing yelling coming from up ahead where Asia was. I looked up and noticed the noise was coming from an alley, but I didn't really think much of it. See, we were in the downtown area of Medford. It's kind of run down and sketchy, especially at night, which is when we were out. Now, after I heard the yelling, I saw Asia turn around and skate back towards us with an uncomfortable look on her face. But again, I didn't really think much of it. Then all of a sudden, as I'm blading down this street, I can finally see down this alley, and what I see is this big, dirty, sweaty man with long curly hair flapping his hands like he's a bird and running at us. Now, he was far enough away that I wasn't really fazed by this. When you grow up around meth heads, you kind of stop giving a crap about them, but he was definitely coming at us all aggressive, and he was screaming out this language that I'd never heard before. It sounded like he was speaking in tongues or some satanic language, which, again, it's late, it's dark, it's a creepy part of town, and this dude was sprinting at us from the dark depths of an alley. Either way, we just kind of skated away and continued on our ride, when Asia turns and asks us, "Did you hear what that guy was saying?" I looked at her and replied, "No, I don't think he was really saying anything. He was just kind of screaming gibberish." She shook her head and said, "No, when I was up ahead of you guys, did you hear what he screamed out at me?" Now, I had no idea that this guy spoke to Asia. I knew that I'd heard something ahead, but I didn't actually hear what had been said. "Wait," I asked, "what did he say?" And apparently, this is what happened. She was riding up ahead when this guy called out to her, "Hey you! Hey girl!" She turned around and noticed him, but didn't know if he was talking to her, so she kind of ignored him at first. This is when he said, "Hey, yeah, you in the pink!" She turned towards him and realized that he was talking to her, and then he said, "Do you want to die tonight? Are you ready?" That's when Asia turned back around towards us, and we caught the bastard screaming down the alley, flapping his arms. Now that's incredibly unpleasant and definitely scary. Again, I wasn't really worried about it. I've had my fair share of face-to-face interactions with people on meth, and most of the time they're harmless. Just ragey from the drug and want to scream like a pissed-off little kid. There was actually a time when I was hanging out in another park in a different part of town. It was late at night, and I was drinking wine with a female friend of mine hanging out at this park, when this guy walks up to me. Now, this guy was about my height, 5'10", and he was ripped. You could tell that he worked out, and I had no idea that he was on meth at first. He walks up to me and asks, "Hey man, do you have a cigarette?" "Sorry buddy," I replied, and he turned around to take off. He then saw my friend drink some wine, and he turned back around and he got in my face. "Hey buddy," he says, "are you letting this girl drink? Are you giving this young girl alcohol?" Now, the girl that I was with and myself are both over the legal drinking age, and yeah, maybe drinking wine in a park is a bit of a dumb idea, but whatever. Everything was fine. She actually stepped forward and started yelling at this guy. "Hey, you need to get out of here, I'm 22. The guy moves her out of the way, and he gets up in my face again. "You're giving this girl alcohol?" This was the point where I realized this guy was methed out. You can kind of tell by their behavior. I looked at him and said, "Buddy, there's no problem here." And granted, I was pretty tipsy, so I was a lot calmer in this situation than I think I'd normally be. The guy takes his shirt off and starts lunging at me like he's ready to start something, and he's saying stuff like, "You really f***ed up, man. You really f***ed up this time." And again, he's right in my face. This is when I looked at him with a huge smile. I literally smiled right at him and said, "You're cute. Buddy, the only person who has a problem here is you. We're both over 21, we're just enjoying the night. You should take off." The dude stops, looks down like he's ashamed, grabbed his shirt, and walked away. Now look, I'm certainly not trying to say that this is the best way to deal with people who are on meth. The best thing to do is to try to get out of the situation as fast as you can, because this drug can make people unpredictable. But if you are in a situation like this, definitely don't get aggressive, don't try to be all big. It's helped me a few times to treat the person like you would an upset child who needs a timeout. Be kind, be gentle, and distract them. People who are on meth are very easily distracted, I've noticed. And yeah, I realize how sad it is that I've been around these kinds of people enough that I can actually give advice on this. Definitely not something I ever imagined I'd need to know about, but what can you do? Speaking of meth, there was this really humble experience that I had that totally shifted the way that I look at these people. So there I was at a bar with a few friends of mine. We had our drinks, sang some karaoke, enjoyed the night, and started walking around the sketchy streets of Medford as the bar had closed and we needed to walk off the alcohol. At the time, I was with my brother, his girlfriend Stacy, and her best friend Crystal. Well, we're walking down the road when this guy walks up to us and starts profusely apologizing to Stacy. Now, I had no idea what was happening, and this guy looked lucid and sober. So, here's what had happened. Earlier that same day, Stacy had gone into town to buy some clothes. This very same guy had been on meth at that time, and he started screaming at her. He even called out her name. "Stacy, you bitch! You worthless bitch!" Apparently he was raving at her, and this made her very uncomfortable. Firstly, she didn't know this guy. It was strange enough that he was yelling at her, but even crazier that she was addressing her by name. All day, this experience had been on her mind, and purely by coincidence, as we were walking through the streets of Medford, he recognizes her from before and walked up to us to apologize. Apparently, his mother's name is Stacy, and he had been having a delusion that he was yelling at her earlier that day. He told us his story. Apparently, his drug abuse had been so bad that he wasn't allowed to see his daughter anymore, and his mother, Stacy, was keeping him from her, which, in his methed-out rage, he started taking it out on strangers. It was kind of unreal how many coincidences were all wrapped up in this moment. He yells at some random woman who happened to have the same name as his mother. We all go to a bar later that night and start walking down random streets of Medford, and then the same guy recognizes Stacy from before and then comes up to apologize. I mean, how does that even happen? We thanked him for being so open and kind enough to apologize for his actions earlier in the day, and he told us, "Look, when I'm on meth, I get angry, I get ragey, but I'm a harmless person. I know in my soul that I would never hurt anyone, but I saw how much I scared you earlier, and I'm glad I was able to see you again and apologize for my behavior. I really need to clean up my act because I'm ruining my life, and I'm missing out on my daughters." It was really an amazing situation, and it seriously did change the way that I look at these people who stick themselves. Now, I can't stress how strange it is to live in the city that I live in. I've been to Vietnam, and out there you have human trafficking and drug-related violence, but it's nothing like what I've experienced in my hometown. There was this one night, I'm rollerblading with my friends. It had actually been the same night as the first story with the Flappy Screamer guy. Jake, Asia, and myself all end up at this park, and we're just kind of blading around, when this little-ass cop walks up to us. Now, he must have been like 5'4" to 5'6", but he was really chill. He walks up and asks us, "Hey guys, look, I don't care, but I have to ask, how long you guys plan on staying at the park?" I looked at him and replied, "Oh, I don't know, maybe 10-15 minutes. We're just kind of hanging out," to which he replies, "Yeah, no worries. Honestly, I really don't care. I don't mind if you guys rollerblade around, hang out, sell your drugs. I don't care what you're doing." Now, I started laughing when he said that. What the hell, I thought? But he continued. "The reason I ask is because the park closes at 10. Have you seen that guy that walks around in the dress?" Now, that's a pretty loaded question, and it kind of threw me off a bit. "What? A guy in a dress?" I asked. "Yeah, we set this curfew on the park because this guy walks through it and sells his body." Jesus Christ! I laughed so hard when he said that. My first thought in my head was, there truly is no place like home. Now, there is one story I have that happened recently that has nothing to do with the whacked out people of Medford. So there I was, rollerblading with my friends. Same ones from before, but we also had our other friend Natasha with us. Now, I had been in a bit of a funk all day. They'd all asked me to go rollerblading with them, and I was in a weird part of my mind. As we were all blading through the streets, I kept thinking how I wasn't really in the moment. I wasn't truly enjoying my time. I was just kind of there, and I was really in a fog about all that. Well, we blade ourselves into a parking garage and skate all the way up to the top and start rollerblading up there. We must have been up there for about 45 minutes, and I was still in this funk when all of a sudden I hear this loud explosion. I turn around and I see smoke rising from a telephone pole. The transformer that was attached to the pole, that had just so happened to be right next to the parking garage that we were in, had randomly exploded, and it did it 2 more times after that. Sparks were flying, it burst into flames, and this large plume of smoke rises out of the transformer, and it was badass. I'd never seen anything like that before, other than in a Michael Bay movie. All around us, the city went dark 2 blocks in every direction. I was instantly pulled out of my funk. Had I never gone out with my friends tonight, I wouldn't have seen this happen. I felt calm and in the moment, and we spent the next 40 minutes blading around the pitch black streets of Medford. You could actually see the night sky, and it was beautiful. Every city has its issues, and nowhere's perfect. When I think of my city, I often think of how dirty, how polluted, and how lost some of the people are. But these memories are very special to me. It's so important to remember the good in every situation. These are stories that I'll not soon forget. Some situations can be stressful, but because of what I went through, I learned from it. Whenever I meet someone who seems a bit dangerous, I always remember to sing to myself to calm my nerves. It's an easy little song. Perhaps you can sing it with me. If you're methed out and you know it, flap your hands. Bye, guys.